Opening tip, the spark of hope. Malik stood alone on the cracked concrete of the neighborhood court, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the faded lines beneath his feet. The ball felt familiar against his palm, a weight he had carried since childhood. This court was where dreams first took shape, where whispered promises to himself were made beneath the flickering streetlights. But today was different. Today marked the beginning of a journey far beyond these worn courts. Freshly drafted, Malik's name had been called by a team desperate for new blood, new hope. The city buzzed with expectations, but inside him stirred a quiet uncertainty. He was talented, yes, but raw, untested in the brutal theater of the professional game. Coaches, veterans, fans, they all watched, waiting to see if he belonged. The locker room was a sterile world of polished floors and cold fluorescent lights, a stark contrast to the rough edges of his neighborhood. Here, Malik met his teammates for the first time. Seasoned players with hardened eyes, each carrying their own stories of victory and defeat. Some nodded politely, others dismissed him with indifferent glances. The room hummed with unspoken tension, the silent question hanging heavier than any spoken word. Would Malik rise or fall? The coach, a man weathered by years on the sidelines, gave Malik a brief nod during practice. His eyes were sharp, calculating, a silent test. Malik felt the weight of expectation in every drill, every sprint. The ball zipped past defenders, swished through nets, but Malik's mind raced faster than his feet. Doubt crept in like a shadow, whispering that talent alone might not be enough. Outside the gym, the city pulsed with life. Cars honked, street vendors called out, and children played under the watchful eyes of parents. Yet, for Malik, all this noise faded into the background when he stepped onto the court. Here, time slowed. Each dribble was a heartbeat, each pass a conversation. This was where he felt alive, where the world's chaos distilled into something pure. But the season was unforgiving. Every game was a battle, not just against opponents but against fear, fatigue, and the relentless pressure to prove himself. The rookie's welcome was harsh. Mistakes were magnified, and second chances rare. Malik knew the path ahead was steep and littered with challenges. As the arena lights blazed for the first regular season game, Malik's nerves tangled with excitement. The roar of the crowd was deafening, yet beneath it all, he heard a quiet voice inside. A voice that urged him forward, whispered of potential yet to be unlocked. With a deep breath, Malik bounced the ball once, twice, and stepped onto the hardwood. The season had begun. This was more than just basketball. It was a test of will, a search for identity, and above all, a story waiting to be written. The opening tip wasn't just a signal for the game to start. It was the spark of hope. Mid-season grind, the weight of reality. The initial spark of hope had begun to flicker under the relentless grind of the season. Malik's bright-eyed confidence was slowly worn thin by the cold realities of professional basketball. The crowds were no longer just cheering. Now they were judging, whispering about missed shots and slow defensive rotations. The cheers had turned into silence or sharp criticism. The locker room, once a place of distant nods, now felt colder. Veterans guarded their space like fortress walls, their hardened expressions a barrier Malik could not yet breach. One star player, Damon, ruled the court with a fierce ego that cast a long shadow over the team. His dismissive glare whenever Malik reached out for advice was a constant reminder. Respect had to be earned, not given. In practice, Malik pushed harder than ever. Yet the coach's decisions were unyielding. Mistakes in early games cost him precious minutes on the floor. He was benched, watching from the sidelines as others took his spot. The sting of exclusion gnawed at him, sharpening doubts he had buried beneath ambition. Was he really cut out for this? A sudden sharp pain in Malik's ankle during a scrimmage compounded his struggles. The diagnosis was a minor sprain, but 2 weeks on the sidelines felt like an eternity. Watching from afar, Malik's mind churned. The season's weight pressed down on him, physical pain mingling with mental fatigue. Without the ball in his hands, the game seemed to move on without him. The city outside the arena remained indifferent. Life rushed past with indifferent urgency. Traffic lights changed, people hurried to work, and the news cycled endlessly through stories of triumph and failure. Malik felt stranded in a bubble, caught between the roar of the arena and the quiet isolation of recovery. Yet it wasn't just his body that felt bruised. Inside the locker room, rumors and tension simmered. Damon's arrogance began to disrupt team unity, fracturing the fragile bond the coach was desperate to build. Whispered arguments and cold silences replaced locker room camaraderie. The team, once hopeful, now seemed fractured. Malik's own reflection was no longer the confident rookie but a man wrestling with his worth. Late nights found him alone, replaying missed opportunities, agonizing over moments when hesitation cost him points or trust. Self-doubt became a relentless companion, threatening to eclipse his earlier dreams. Still, beneath the shadow of struggle, a quiet resolve grew. Malik knew this was a test, not just of skill but of character. The season was not merely a tally of wins and losses, but a journey through hardship that demanded endurance. Every setback was a lesson in resilience. As Malik sat on the bench one cold evening, watching his teammates battle on the court, he clenched his fists and whispered a vow to himself. This is not the end. The mid-season grind was brutal and unforgiving, but Malik was beginning to understand that sometimes the hardest battles are fought in silence, far from the spotlight. The turning point, brotherhood forged in fire. Winter's chill crept through the city streets, but inside the arena, a quiet heat was building. Malik sat quietly during warm-ups, his ankle healed but his place uncertain. The season had ground on, but tonight felt different. An unspoken shift lingered in the air. The veteran guard, Marcus, had watched Malik struggle from afar. A player once known for his own fiery temper, Marcus understood what it meant to fight for respect. After practice one evening, he approached Malik, not with criticism, but with a steady gaze that held something unfamiliar: mentorship. "Keep working," Marcus said simply. "Talent's just the start. You've got heart. That's what lasts." The words settled in Malik's mind like seeds ready to grow. In the days that followed, Marcus pulled him into team drills, shared insights from his own battles, and pushed him harder than anyone else. It wasn't easy. There were moments when Malik stumbled, frustrated by his limits, but the presence of a guide transformed doubt into determination. Then came the turning moment. A sudden injury sidelined Damon, the star player whose ego had fractured the team. The coach, with no other choice, handed Malik the starting spot for a crucial game. The arena thrummed with anticipation and skepticism. Could the rookie carry the weight? The game began like a storm. Malik's nerves tightened with every possession, but Marcus was at his side, whispering advice between plays. Malik's confidence grew with each basket, each defensive stop. The chemistry the team had lacked was slowly taking shape, a delicate dance of trust and timing. By the final quarter, Malik's energy was electric. He drove through defenders, found open teammates, and even sank a three-pointer that sparked a roaring chant from the crowd. But more than the points, it was the connection, the unspoken understanding with Marcus and the others that defined the moment. They were no longer just individuals but a unit, a brotherhood forged in fire.